Thank you for being here. Hey, nice to meet you guys. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. Kind of exciting. I'm so excited to be here, to be in Pennsylvania. I mean, this is the place where it should happen. This is the birthplace of all this.
We will be focused on various calls for the amendments to the United States Constitution by using a previously unused section of Article 5, which allows states the ability to recommend changes.
Mr. Chairman, honorable members of the committee, members of the audience, it is a great privilege and honor for me to be here in the Pennsylvania legislature.
I'm going to defer to two of my colleagues before my questions for you, sir. First, Senator Alloway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, thank you for being here. Every time I hear you, I'm more amazed. I mean, I first met Mark and Senator Coburn and Senator Mint a couple years ago, sat in on a seminar and listened to what they had to say. And I got to tell you, when I first went in, I was like, all right, what's this about? You know, I'm wanting to listen and learn. And at the end of it, I'm convinced beyond any measure that this is the right thing to do. Everything that you two gentlemen have said this morning is the gospel. If you think Washington is going to fix itself, there is no way. And I've been in state government for 10 years, and long before that, I've always believed in federalism. I've always been a states' rights guy. I just always felt like the states should take care of their own issues, and you know, if someone wants to do something different, that's fine. I live here in Pennsylvania, and I've just always believed that. And when I look and I see, I'm a lawyer as well, I'm a former judge, and when I see the same things that you talked about, I've witnessed it, just the degradation of our Constitution and our laws. And this is the only way to do it. And so to me, it seems just absolutely painfully obvious. It's like they put this in here for this reason, because they foresaw this huge monstrous power potentially growing because of the faults of men in general. And this is what they gave us to step in and take it back. And you're 100% right. Every person that I've talked to, everything's fear. It's fear of the unknown. And I understand that. I understand it. But as you said, we have to be courageous and take a step and take our government back. We have to. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an out of control government, as Jim said, that it's so powerful now down there. They spend tens of millions of dollars to get this piece of power because of what it means to them. And it shouldn't be that way. So thank you for everything that you've done. Unfortunately, I gotta get up. I got some other meetings as well. But thank you for coming here. Look forward to keeping in touch. And look, for those of you that may have a different opinion, I respect you, and I want to hear your opinion. I want to keep this dialogue. I'm the one that asked Senator Fulmer to have this meeting because I want to have this dialogue among the men and women and families of this Commonwealth and talk about what we can do to take our government back. So, Mark, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, thank you for your leadership on this. Really appreciate your historical perspective. The way that you described the thought process of the founding fathers and why this was important is right on point. The one thing I'm curious, though, from your perspective, given what this country's been through, all the challenges we've been through, the differences that the federal government is in position in relation to the states now as opposed to where it was when it started. Why has this never happened, in your perspective? Why is it Article 5 amendment given all the changes and everything, all the challenges we've had, it's never been successfully passed? What is your thought process on that?
Senator, I think that's a great question. I think that the first reason that I would say it's never happened is because it's very difficult. And I think that's intentional. The founders set an incredibly high bar. They did not, and they wrote about this, they did not want the Constitution changed based on changing societal whims. They wanted it to be an arduous process that required the development of consensus across all of the states, 3/4, 2/3 to follow, 3/4 to ratify. A super majority. You guys know how difficult that is in a single legislature. So across the country, it's incredibly difficult. So one is that the bar is simply very high. Number two is, it's a very, what I would describe as muscular political exercise. It requires the organizing of grassroots in all 50 states. And nobody's ever attempted it in that way. There have been over 400 applications made for a convention of states to Congress. None of them, or they haven't aggregated enough to get to the 34 because nobody's organized the operation. And so this was our approach, to take a political grassroots organizing approach from the start, to organize in all 50 states. So we started that 5 years ago. Today there are 3.6 million supporters in the field. We have supporters in 100% of all state legislative districts in the nation. We have just here in the Commonwealth, over 40,000 supporters who express their support for the petition. So I think the real answer is just, it's very difficult. It requires an organized, difficult, arduous, expensive effort, and we're the first organization ever to undertake that nationally.
Well, you described the probably the most important component of this is and that's the reason why I believe that the focus of this is important, and that's campaign finance reform. And it's going to take direct citizen engagement, and that's something we need more of in elections. So this would provide a dual benefit to that, is have what's necessary to get an amendment done, which is the only way to get it done is that for more people to engage in the process. But if you're looking for someone to take on a challenge, you couldn't find anyone better than Senator Fulmer. So thank you for your efforts. It's very interesting.
Well, Pat, anyway, Mark, thanks for being here. And due to Senator Corburn's health issues, means I just have more questions for you. Let us begin and such. Given the history of the 1787 Convention, Constitutional Convention, and the shrill political divisions and debates of our day, how would a 2018 Constitutional Convention differ from the 1787 Convention, where, for instance, two of the New York delegates, John Lansing and Robert Yates, left Philadelphia in protest of the deliberations, which allowed one person, Alexander Hamilton, to act and vote on behalf of the entire state of New York?
I'll deal with the New York situation first. I actually think it's great that those guys left. The reason I think it's great is they were one of the only two delegations that did not have full authority at that convention.
Right.
And I think this is related, because you hear the argument these guys didn't have authority. If you read the commissions of the delegates to the convention, all of them had authority to take any and all action necessary to render the federal constitution adequate for the exigencies of the Union. They were not there to simply amend the Articles of Confederation. New York is an exception to that. So when the two of them left, I think that was important and actually appropriate under the circumstances. And ultimately, they did not vote on the Constitution in its final form, did not sign the Constitution because they did not have authority. I think the fundamental difference between that convention, there will be a lot of them, but I think the fundamental difference between 1787 and today is the public nature of the convention. 1787, as we all know the story, then locked themselves in its hall, boarded up the windows, had a sweltering summer. You guys have pretty good air conditioning here. It would probably be okay wherever they are.
I could never imagine that.
No, hard to imagine. Months in that building in private. Had a lot of people say to me, well, this one won't be able to be in private, and so that's a problem. I say, thank God it won't be able to be in private. I'm a big fan of transparency. I think things are different today. We know who's in there, who's doing the influencing, who's talking. It won't be broadcast 24/7 on C-SPAN and every network in the nation. You and I and every school child have the opportunity to watch and know exactly what's going on. I think that will be the fundamental difference. This will be public events of great importance.
Thank you. What if the convention of states followed the example of the 1787 convention and changed the ratification process, meaning this? 1787 delegates changed ratifications from all 13 states to the ratification by 9 states. What if the 2018 Convention of States decided any proposed changes to the concurrent Constitution could be ratified by a simple majority of, let's say, 26, rather than the existing requirement of 38 states, which would be 3/4 of the states?
Well, so first of all, I want to address what I think is a historic inaccuracy. The convention itself did not change the method of ratification. In 1787, the same as today, all they had the authority to do was to make a recommendation. And then that change was ratified essentially by Congress, and then by the states themselves holding a convention. So this is really important, and it is a very important distinction. In other words, the convention has no actual power. 1787, they had no power, and this convention will have no actual power other than to make recommendations. So I think that's number one. Number two is the Convention of States application is structured in such a way that such an amendment would not be available. In other words, it would not even be germane, it would not be discussed at convention. The reason for that is the only thing that's available to the delegates at convention are the three subject matter areas: fiscal limitations on the federal government, scope and power limitations on the federal government internally. So any discussion would be non-germane, and any delegate at that convention, any commissioner could simply raise their hand and raise a point of order, and that would not be discussed at convention.
Okay. And after we announced the scheduling of this hearing, my office was inundated with messages from people who said, and I'm going to quote, "I'm a volunteer. I care about our Constitution. Here are the reasons why Pennsylvania legislators should defeat all applications for Article 5 convention," and they quoted former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Scalia. And I quote his statement: "I certainly would not want a constitutional convention. Whoa, who knows what would come out of it." That was on April 14th, 2014 quote. How should we reply to such concerns?
Number one, this is one of my favorite discussions and debates, because the assumption of people who make that argument, Senator, is that I think one of the greatest ever jurists in the history of the United States Supreme Court did not understand the difference between a constitutional convention and an Article 5 convention. He was obviously a lawyer first, and any lawyer can tell you that a constitutional convention is what's called in legal terms a plenipotentiary convention, meaning it's an all-powerful convention. It starts from scratch. It's drafting a constitution. It is not drafting amendments to a constitution. So the idea that Antonin Scalia would be so loose with his words and lack such an understanding of basic American tenets of constitutional law as to call an amendments convention a constitutional convention is outrageous. How do we know this for sure? Because you can look at Antonin Scalia's remarks over his lifetime, and he has extensive remarks that he is generally in favor of the idea of an amending convention. He states that he believes there's a very small risk, but that it is absolutely necessary if we are to save our republic. So Justice Scalia well understood the difference between a constitutional convention and an amending convention. And I would say for the record here openly, I and everybody who is a part of the Convention of States project is adamantly opposed to the idea of a constitutional convention.
A 2016 presidential candidate recently said in a television interview, "You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about." Now, with such sharp political divides today, how do you see any real or meaningful discussions of possible amendments to the United States Constitution being productive when we can't even be civil to one another just because we're from different political parties?
Well, I think the idea of civility is at the root of the idea of the Convention of States, and this is what I mean by that. I think part of the reason for this radical division in the country, the hatred, the wickedness, the partisanship, is because so many decisions are made in Washington, D.C. right now. What that means is if you have a Democratic administration and a Democratic Congress, half of the country is going to be angry about whatever comes out of that administration. If you have a Republican administration, as we do now, and now a more conservative Supreme Court, you make half of the country angry, whatever comes out. We solve that problem by removing the power from Washington, D.C. and returning it to the states where we can have these debates and discussions with our neighbors as the founders intended. In a convention itself, I'm not worried about it. I've seen a convention. We held a mock convention in Williamsburg 2 years ago. I've watched delegates work together. We had Democrats, we had Republicans. I've watched people have these discussions. I have great faith in state legislatures. I've traveled around, I've been in 44 of them. I know how you operate. I know that there are many more great statesmen and women in state legislatures than we see in Washington, D.C. today. So we'll get in that convention. I have no doubt it will be cantankerous and difficult. There will be arguments and debates. But I have faith in the American people and state legislators from all over the country to work out our differences.
What are your thoughts, if any, on countermand amendment to the United States Constitution, which, if approved, would give states the ability to override federal legislation, executive orders, or court orders whenever 30 states take action to agree to such a vote? Veto.
So I'm generally in favor of states' abilities to override the federal government. Again, as a standalone amendment, I don't think it solves the problems that ail the nation. As a package of amendments, limiting the scope, power, and jurisdiction of the federal government, I do believe the state should ultimately have power in some sort of a supermajority configuration to overrule actions of the federal government, so long as they're consistent with other provisions of the United States Constitution, and specifically the Bill of Rights.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's all my questions for you. I would like to turn it over to Senator John Eichelberger, who's the prime sponsor of two of the resolutions, 133, Resolution 133 and 134. And John would like to, Senator Eichelberger, excuse me, would like to make a couple comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's good to see you again today, Mark. And I have wanted to talk for a minute about my experience at a convention that we had in 2016 in Williamsburg, Virginia. And we had a convention of the states experience for 2 days. We consolidated, there were delegates there from all 50 states. There were 2 from Pennsylvania, and I was one of Pennsylvania's delegates. We went through the process of what an Article 5 convention would be like. We had committees, we had floor debates, we elected officers, we implemented our rules. We went through the whole process in a very consolidated fashion, but it was done very professionally and with a lot of thought. Most of the people that were there, I believe, were either legislators or former legislators from around the country, not everybody, but people that understood the process of coming together and trying to work together to accomplish something. And it was very successful. We didn't have anybody stray from what we thought would be the confines of our rules and where we wanted to go. And we followed the framework of what we're asking for with my resolution that I'm proposing here in Pennsylvania. We're looking at that resolution to call to impose fiscal restraints on the federal government, limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, and impose term limits on federal officials. So what we had 6 proposals that we started, that we established in Williamsburg.
Thank you, Senator Eichelberger. John and I came in together in 2007, or at least I had a buddy of mine for a while. So anyway, sir, you're done.
Thank you.
And you can return to your seat.